A town of 5, sitting on a hidden fire. Centralia looks quiet, but danger is real, managed, not solved. Centralia, Pennsylvania, is nearly empty. The 2020 census counted 5 residents. A 2013 settlement let the last homeowners stay for life. Everyone else left. The reason lies beneath their feet, an underground coal seam fire that started in 1962 and still burns. State officials warn the fire zone is extremely dangerous. Toxic gases can pool. The ground can give way without warning. Much of the land is posted or off limits, and police do enforce trespassing rules. What you see now are quiet streets, a few occupied homes, and signs that tell you to turn back. What you don't see is the heat and gases moving under town. This is not a movie set. It's a slow, expensive management problem. Why wasn't the fire put out? Why did one church survive when others didn't? And what really happened to the so-called Graffiti Highway? We'll answer all 3 as we go. Here is the real status. The fire is mostly out of sight, deeper now than in the 1980s. Surface clues change with weather. In winter, you may see steam. In summer, you may see nothing, but the risk remains. Centralia began as a coal town. The borough incorporated in 1866, and anthracite paid the bills. By 1890, the population peaked at 2,761. The streets filled with churches, hotels, and corner bars. When anthracite demand fell in the mid-20th century, mines closed and families moved away. In May 1962, a landfill burn near the Oddfellows Cemetery lit a seam below. The fire slipped into old workings under town. Crews tried trenches, flushing, and sealing. Each attempt fell short. By the early 1980s, heat and gases reached homes. In 1983, federal analysts estimated a full extinguishment could cost around $663 million. For a small borough, that number ended the debate. The state and federal plans shifted to relocation. Over the next decades, most properties were bought out. Streets stayed, but houses vanished. A 2013 settlement let the last holdouts remain for life. The rest of Centralia became a managed hazard. Officials kept monitoring boreholes and posting warnings. Fires elsewhere proved how long seam fires can last. Underground. If you visit today, what do you actually see? Fewer buildings than you expect. Most blocks are open grass framed by curbs and steps to nowhere. Street signs still name the grid, but long gaps sit between lived-in homes. In cooler months, you may spot frost-free patches or faint steam near south-central lots. On windy summer days, you might see nothing at all and wonder where the fire went. It is still there, moving through old workings at depth. The state calls the active zone extremely dangerous. Toxic gases can collect in low spots. The ground can fail without warning. Posted signs mark much of the area, and police do enforce trespass. The safe approach is simple. Stay on public roads and respect every barrier. Drive Locust Avenue and West Center Street for an honest view. You'll feel the shape of a town without its houses. Mailboxes stand alone. Concrete steps rise to fields. The quiet is striking. If you want coal country context without risk, go 5 miles south to Ashland. The Pioneer Tunnel Tour takes you about 1,800 feet into a retired anthracite mine. Guides explain pillars, rooms, and how air moves. Outside, a narrow-gauge train loops roughly 3/4 of a mile around the mountain. It shows the scale of the work, the timber, and the noise that once carried across this ridge. Pair that with a legal drive along the current PA 61 and PA 42 corridors through Centralia. You will understand the setting without stepping off limits. One more field note. Surface clues are seasonal. Winter cold makes vents more visible. After heavy rain, gases may shift. A warm breeze can hide everything. Do not let a quiet day fool you. The hazard is real, even when you can't see it. Treat the town like a work site, not a playground or thrill stop. Be courteous. One building tells a larger story. The Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary Ukrainian Catholic Church stands on the hill above town. It survived because it sits on bedrock, not coal. Engineers confirmed that in the 1980s. In 2015, the church was named a pilgrimage site by the Ukrainian Catholic leader in the United States. Each summer, hundreds gather there to pray and remember families who left. The dome looks over empty blocks, a rare point of continuity in a place mostly erased. If you want to understand Centralia's heart, look from that hill. You'll see why memory stayed even as houses disappeared. The church still holds Sunday liturgy sometimes. The most famous attraction was the so-called Graffiti Highway, an abandoned piece of old Route 61 south of town. It was never a park. It was private property, damaged by heat and subsidence. The road was closed in 1993 after buckling. Crowds kept coming anyway. State police and the owner had a constant trespass problem. In April 2020, trucks dumped loads of dirt across the pavement to block access. About 3/4 of a mile disappeared under fill. Overnight, the viral backdrop was gone by design. That took away Centralia's easiest spectacle. Interest did not vanish. It shifted. Some of it lives online now. Archival photos, drone flyovers, and map threads. Some of it moves to sanctioned places, the Pioneer Tunnel in Ashland, coal museums in the region, and legal overlooks along the current highway. But Centralia still faces a harder headwind: cost. In 1983, analysts put a full extinguishment at roughly $663 million. The relocation, buyouts, and related work since the 1980s totaled far less, around $48.8 million. The gap explains the policy you see today. Keep people out of danger, spend on management, and accept that the fire continues at depth. That is not a defeatist line. It is a risk.
Decision made over decades, with budgets on the table. With the highway covered, unsanctioned influencers lost a stage. The story did not end. It matured into maps, records, and careful on-the-ground reporting instead. Centralia sits high on a ridge in Columbia County. The borough covers only 1/4 of a square mile, about 0.62 square kilometers. Elevation is roughly 1,467 feet, or 447 meters. By road, it is about 61 miles northeast of Harrisburg and roughly 114 miles northwest of Philadelphia. Route 61 now follows Burnsville Road to bypass the damaged alignment south of town. Inside the borough, Route 61 becomes Locust Avenue and meets Route 42 before bending west. The original 4-lane stretch that buckled from heat and subsidence was closed in 1993 and later blocked. The modern route keeps traffic moving while the old ground continues to shift below. Maps still show the scar, a gray seam amid second growth. Centralia's plan is not a comeback, it is management. The Department of Environmental Protection monitors the fire area, posts warnings, and keeps records of gas and temperature data. The fire continues at depth along old workings that act like airways. The relocation era has ended. A handful of Life Estate residents may remain until they pass. Volunteers now aim at what they can control. They organize cleanups to stop dumping. In 2021, community members planted roughly 250 apple trees across vacant lots to bring back shade and birds. Think of the town as a long rehabilitation project. Keep people safe. Discourage trespass. Let native growth slowly close the wound. If there is a future here, it is quiet and careful, built on stewardship more than tourism, and measured in decades rather than years. New pavement and utilities are unlikely while the seam remains active. What will grow are trees, stories, and caution. Put safety first and let time work. Centralia is the famous case, not the only one. The United States has dozens of underground mine fires, many in coal country. A federal list in 2013 counted 98 such fires across 9 states and called it an undercount. In Pennsylvania,
Agencies budget every year for mine fires and burning waste piles. Why can't a crew just smother the Centralia fire? Because seam fires can run hundreds of feet down and miles along, feeding on oxygen that seeps through fractures and old tunnels. Temperatures recorded in boreholes have topped 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. In lab tests and theory, flames in well-aired coal can reach roughly 1,350 degrees. At those levels, rock cracks, ground shifts, and access grows risky. The practical rule that emerges is simple. When risk is high near homes, relocate. When risk is lower, monitor and manage. Spend where people live. Accept that some underground fires will outlast us. Centralia proves the point. Visibility changes, but the policy remains steady and pragmatic over time. What is really happening in Centralia? The fire still burns, mostly out of sight. Most land is off limits for good reason. A small church community and a handful of residents keep memory alive. The state manages danger, not miracles. If you visit, stay on public roads, respect every sign, and consider a sanctioned mine tour nearby for context. This is a story about what remains, what we protect, and what we let nature reclaim. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more place stories with clear facts, maps, and on-the-ground notes. New episodes each week. Same careful, curious lens.